What up, Buckeye Nation? Welcome to the Scoop, man. Excited to be here. Excited to see everybody in the chat. Got a good show planned for you guys. Got a lot of recruiting things to go through just real fast. Not going to hit on them real hard, actually. Talk about the team. What are they up to? Obviously, man, sad day in Buckeye Nation. Lost an absolute legend, Nick Mangold. So dive into that a little bit and then talk about what's going on in college football. A lot of coaches about to be without jobs. Ryan Day, not on that list. Grateful to be a Buckeye man. So, with that, got to bring in old Nevadabuck here. Help me out with this show a little bit tonight. Nevada, want you to know I averaged last week 317 yards a drive from the Black Tees.
Oh,
That's how I want to start the show off. Just
I,
want to tell
I'm
you.
man, I'm telling you, that's impressive. We gotta work on my driving. I hit a couple of 240, 250 yard drives, which for me were bombs. I felt like I hit it as far as a human could hit it. So I'm looking forward to getting a little bit of instruction and maybe getting it out there with Devin. But yeah, excited to be here. Excited to hear about your long driving.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. 250's plenty long enough, if you're not like a professional or something. But no, I love golf. Been golfing a little bit more here lately. But anyway, Nevada, did the live watch party yesterday. Got to watch Scum on the field. Got to watch Bryce Underwood taking selfies at the before the game was over with fans on the sideline. Was there backflips done the second the game was over, or was that like an AI video? Did you see that?
Um,
I
I
can't
I
remember.
I didn't see. I just know. Look, I had predicted that Michigan State was going to upset them. I liked Michigan State plus the points they covered. I think the game was a lot closer than a lot of people thought. And frankly, if not for want of, games generally turn on one or two, plays if they're close games. And this one definitely turned on it. You and I were actually on the phone together at the time when it happened, when Michigan State blitzed him, sacked him, grabbed, fumbled, picked up the ball, had the ball in with the chance to go in down one score, and the ref called offside, and that was really unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah. On that note, real fast, just so we can't have people coming and saying, "Hey, you're biased here. Obviously, you guys don't like them." Let's just do this, just real fast. Let's take a couple seconds. Let's watch this play slowed down a lot. Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
I paused it right there. The ball started to move, right? He started to snap the ball. Is the Michigan State player behind the line of scrimmage? He's allowed to be touching it. He just has to be behind it.
Yeah, it seems it's the problem with that call too was the fact that it came in really late. You saw the flag. The flag got thrown in really late. So the guy was clearly unsure of what he was seeing, and and he called it, and it was a horrible call. It was a game-changing call. And I truly believe if not for that, I really believe Michigan goes down last night. They were primed to go down. They're just not very good. And they're really a cautionary tale on a bigger thing that I do want to talk about, which is why would you ever throw the bag at a freshman at a high school, any unproven high school quarterback? You know what I'm saying? Because they are now wedded to Fats Underwood for the next 3 years because they gave him $12 million or $13 million or whatever it is, and he's not. I'm just going to give you guys a little spoiler. He's not very good, and he's not getting better, and he's questionable character. His stats line last night was 8 for 17 for 86 yards. And you can say, well, he also was a dual threat guy. He rushed. Yeah, he contributed 26 yards rushing on top of that. So that's what you're getting from your $13 million guy. And then on top of that, your lead dog always sets the pace for everybody in your, on your team. And he's clearly, the guy, the quarterback, the head of, and there couldn't be a lower character kid in college football than Bryce Underwood. I mean, he's a clown. He's leading them down the road of ruin, and I'm loving it. and it's funny to watch. But again, I would never, man, spend money on the North Texas quarterback who's got 5 years or 6 years and plenty of tape to watch, or Fernando Mendoza or Will Howard or Bo Nix or whomever. But why you would spend money on Fats Underwood and take your program down? I mean, I'm happy they did it, but wow, it's definitely a cautionary tale for any college football team. If you're throwing the bag at a freshman, man, you are playing Russian roulette, and they're certainly doing that right now.
Yeah, man. If anybody watched that game, the score wasn't the score because of how good Scum played. It it wasn't even the score because of how bad Michigan State played, and they played horrible. That is a really, really bad coach team, really bad. 100 yards for 10 penalties for 100 yards. I mean, really bad coach team, and then the calls with the officials. So it just goes to show you. But on a bigger note, I think Nevada, what you bring up is a really good point about Bryce Underwood. Young, whatever, but it's just like got to reel that in. But here's where it really starts, dude. I watched Sharon Moore turn around and start engaging with the fans when they got their fourth down conversion, pointing at him, laughing at him. Like, that's your leader, bro. Can you imagine Ryan Day turning around to the away team, okay, and engaging with their fans and like anything at all, yelling anything at them at all? Can you imagine? That's your leader. Like, he's just, you brought it up on the message board today, and I completely agree. He's just completely lost, man. I mean, he is lost on the sidelines. I want to say, I think he's an absolutely amazing coach, and they should keep him for quite some time. You got anything to add to that before we move on from the debacle they got over there?
No, he's trying way too hard to be cool. He's kind of like when Brian Kelly did the rap video with the recruits down at LSU, trying to be cool. Sharon Moore's just he's always trying to dab guys up, and he's trying to, oh, this, give me five. He doesn't know what to do, because he's like the guy he's in the big room and he's in the big chair, and he knows he doesn't belong there, but he's there. So he doesn't know how to act, because he's completely a fish out of water. So he just has that dumb look on his face on the sideline, makes dumb decisions, lets the inmates run the asylum. His coaches, the assistant coaches, walk all over me. He lets Fat Underwood walk all over him, giggling it up on the sideline, selfies on the sideline during the game, and he does nothing. And oh my God, if that was Ohio State, I'd be so embarrassed to be an Ohio State fan. I mean, that would really be embarrassing if something like that was going. If any one of those things was going on, I'd be just humiliated. And the fact that they all go on, and they all go on consistently, constantly, from we had the videos of Fats laughing it up against USC when they're losing by 18 points at the end. It's every week. It's something with these guys, and I love that that's what their program is. Because if their program was like a program that won, that was responsible, that you respected, man, you'd be like, wow, man, they're doing it the right way. They're really building it. But they're just not. Other than, I want to give him credit for getting Justice Haynes. That guy's a really good running back. That guy is a really
Mm-hmm.
good run. I mean, he is patient and he's fast, and I like everything about him as a running back. But that's about it about that team. I mean, that team is just a mess. And look, in any one game, anything can happen. I understand that, but I am very much looking forward to going up to Ann Arbor, with this particular Buckeye team, with this particular Buckeye staff, and just laying it on them. I think it's going to be completely cathartic for our entire fan base, and I'm going to be here for it.
Yeah, I'm excited too, and I decided during watching that game that I'm not going to fall into the whole not act like I have the confidence that I do with these Buckeyes in that game because of what happened last year. The confidence I had last year wasn't like false confidence or something. It was based off of facts and truths, right? We watched what happened, but this year I'm very excited to watch this game with Ryan Day. So yeah, the team over there, it's just, dude, it's rough to watch. I mean, you got Ryan Day, right, poking fun of Jackson Smith and Jigba, the leading receiver in the NFL, because he didn't like his celebration. Ryan Day said, yeah, he needs to act like he's been there a little bit. You know what I mean? Not do all that. So that's just the level that Ohio State's operate. They've been there, right? The players have been there. We've had this success. So they know how to operate professionally, responsibly, good examples to each other. But that's not the way it's going for the other team. But it's not like that's new. So let's do this. Let's dive into the Buckeyes. Unfortunately, got to start off Nevada with not so good news. Like I said, beginning of the show, Nick Mangold. I mean, just an absolute Buckeye legend passed away. Lost a good one today. Nevada, thoughts on that?
Just terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. I mean, on the heels of what Bob Maggs died the other day, and you got Nick Mangold, and I mean, Nick Mangold's 41 years old. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Which is like, I mean, that's so young. I mean, I mean, I just, yeah, it's hard to really process. Had seen him about a year ago, and he didn't look right. His skin color wasn't good. His power wasn't good. I didn't know what was wrong, but something definitely didn't look right. Um, and now this, just hard to process. I mean, it just, I think for everybody, it's just kind of a cautionary tale to enjoy every day. Um, because I mean, look at Nick. I mean, Nick, 41 years old, married, kids, the borderline Hall of Fame career. Yeah, I mean, has it all going on, and then now he's not with us anymore, and it's so remarkably sad. It's remarkably sad when it passes away, when somebody passes away that age. It's really, really sad, and just my heart's been heavy the whole day since I heard that. So yeah, not good news for sure.
Yeah, if you didn't have like the privilege to watch what he did in his career, I mean, 3 years starter here for the Buckeyes. I believe as a freshman, right? Nevada came in, somebody got injured. Our starting center, he had to replace them. Ended up just taking the job for the next 3 years. And is this correct? Was he a first round draft pick at center?
Let me check on that. Let me check on that. I'm
It,
not sure if that's true, but let me
Yeah. Anyway, left a big impact here at the Buckeyes. I mean, LaCharles Bentley's a good a center, good example. Nick Mangold, absolute legend for the Buckeyes. First round draft pick as a center is just, I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, 29th pick overall in the first round. I,
That's
I know
that's
that I,
wild,
I
bro.
I thought that was right, but I was thinking to myself, am I sure that happened? Because
I know.
that doesn't happen. Yeah, that doesn't happen for centers. So yeah, 29th pick in the first round.
Yeah, that's why like it was one of those things I knew, but when I said it out loud, I'm like, that just doesn't sound like that's really even possible. So yeah, prayers to him, prayers to his family. 41 years old. That's gonna leave some people behind. But prayers this way, show love and support all you can, Buckeye Nation. That's what we do, man. This is a family here. So speaking of the Buckeyes, dude, bye week this week, Nevada. You talked about a little bit of a nugget a while ago about what do they do during this off time? And, they're the number one team. They keep hearing how good they are. They have things to work on. They need to self scout. My overall question here is there enough self scouting to be done? Like, to watch that Wisconsin game and understand how this team needs to move forward. Do you think the coaches have locked down an identity? What I mean by that is pass first team, pass first identity. Open that up. Do you think we're going to see a bigger change for the Penn State game? Have you heard anything about the direction they're moving in? But when you talk about self scouting, it's not for those times with the JJ and his feet. I mean, it's not for just those times. It's for things like this as well. The overall identity of this team, do you think that got worked on and where you think it's headed?
Well, I think what it's headed to is that we're going to be a pass first, spread them out kind of team. I think that Ryan still likes the 12, 13, and 14 personnel, but I think when you see the numbers, when you look at the analytics, we're so much more efficient. When there's more wide receivers on the field and when Julian's got the ball in his hand. So I think over time, Ryan certainly wants to balance it out and develop some rushing concepts that work for him. But I think they're really leaning into the fact that our primary way of hurting people is via the air, via the most accurate passer in college football, maybe the most accurate passer in college football history, and the best current pair of wide receivers in the game in Carnell and JJ. So That's every indication that I've gotten from people inside the Woody. That's what I've gotten from talking to players. That's what I've gotten from the way that they're practicing now. Did I think they'd come out and throw as often as they did against Wisconsin? Look, I hope they would, but you never know what they're going to call. You know what I'm saying? Because you're never sure, what they're working on, or what they're trying to set up on tape and things like that. But I really do believe that Ohio State is embracing the fact that they've got a transcendent generational type of talent and Julian Sand at quarterback, and that they really need to lean into the fact that they can throw the football on anybody, and the teams that they have up on the schedule against them are particularly vulnerable to the pass. And I think Ohio State knows that, and we're going to see more of it.
Yeah, I love like where this coaching staff is and what we heard coming out of the Woody, that this is where this team is. This coaching staff is aware, right, of that rat poison that's in the air of you guys are so good. The defense, best in the nation, offense, Julian Sane, and the way people are talking about him. These kids hear those things. They're young kids. So it's nice to know that we have such an experienced coaching staff that went through it last year. Not like this. The team last year had some struggles, so they didn't get talked about in this way, but they have that experience to know how to navigate that and able to make the changes where needed. That's one of the things about Ryan Day that I have seen change a lot more over time. Changes happen a little faster than they used to. That's what I'm seeing anyway, and I hope that continues to be the case. Nevada, I know you're not huge on this, right? And for kind of a good reason. Recruiting it changes so much in this landscape with nil, and you never know what's going to happen. But the coaches were on the road, Nevada, and you get a really good idea when these coaches have a limited, days that they can go visit players. Pay attention to who they go visit. And I just want to go over that list real fast, but I see you unmuted. You got to say something about recruiting before I dive
No,
into this list just real quick?
you gotta remember, I started my career on recruiting. Like, that was what I
I
cut my
know.
teeth on
Yeah.
originally. So it's just so hard now. I mean, I have so much respect for anybody, including people like yourself, that try to follow it and cover it and make sense of it, because it is great. But I think you make a really good point. When you've got an off week like this, you've got a chance to make visits, you've got a chance to expend your valuable resources, mainly your time. Where are you going? Where are you spending that time? Because Ohio State, obviously, working on future classes, but they're still working a lot of stuff for the current class, and flip a palooza with people. They've brought a bunch of different guys, but yeah, it's certainly where they're going is certainly an indicator of where they want to be.
Yeah, things got a little bit more exciting on the recruiting front, and yeah, I know that you, man, you were in the trenches in recruiting, and today's day and age, it wears me out a little bit. You're one of the people I call when I get wore out. I'm like, hey, bro, listen, I had this parent telling me this on the phone, and an hour later they did something else. I don't want to do this anymore. But keep driving forward, man. I love it. I love the grind and the drive of getting to know these players and trying to understand why they make the decisions that they do. But Bailey Fester, quarterback coach, saw Luke Fahey, 2026 quarterback commit. Last week, went to see Brady Edmonds again. Both those guys are absolutely tearing it up. And he also stopped in Florida, saw Champ Mods and Naeem Lawrence, 2028 quarterback. So good there, for the future of this program. Coach Locke, here's one to pay attention to, man. This is not new information, but both Coach Locke and Coach Day went to see David Gabriel Georges and Keemon Spell. Coach Day also stopped by Ronaldo Perez's high school, saw him as well. 2027 defensive end, friend of the Buckeye boys, had him on the show. He'll be on again. But, top 150 player, defensive end out of the state of Ohio. Coach Bowen, man, he went and stopped by Kevin Brown, a number 68 offensive lineman nationally, was committed to Penn State. Obviously, the firing of the coach, Coach Bowen, diving back in there. Dude, he's swinging for the fences. Going to see Kevin Brown, Darius Gray, big time players like that. So I love the swings he's taken there. Matty G, some 2027 guys. He went and stopped the number 1 overall player in the 27 class, John Meredith. Saw him as well, and Jaquan Snell, a big time safety out of Texas. Those are 27 guys. But Coach Walton, man, Coach Walton, this is what I wanted to dive into a little bit deeper here, because last year picked up Devin Sanchez and one other corner in the class. This year they got Jordan Thomas, their number one want, and that's it. No other corners in the class, but he's swinging for the fences as well, going after Danny Oden, and Jay Timmons will be visiting for the Penn State game. Directly after that visit, Jay Timmons, who is a top 100 player, like the number 2 cornerback in the class, we'll be interviewing him on here, seeing how that visit went. But Coach Walk stopped by another school today. I forget where, not today, but over the weekend, and he offered CJ Borno, number 15 corner in the class. So Coach Walt taking some big time swings as well. Nevada, a while back, he told people the end of this recruiting cycle is going to look a little bit different than it normally does. We're used to seeing teams come in right with bags and steal our recruits. This feels a little bit different than it normally does. I see these Buckeye coaches staying very aggressive. I mean, offensive line corner, they're not going after, the normal suspects of, hey, let's go get this 1,000th ranked player. They're going after 5 stars here. So I feel like they're going after him for a reason. What do they have up their sleeve, Nevada? What have you heard about how the Buckeyes are going to handle ending this class the correct way?
Well, I think, look, there's a couple of things going on, and one's, a broader issue of kind of instability in college football right now, and you're seeing it. You're seeing a number of programs right now who are losing coaches or have lost coaches. Notably, obviously Penn State. We've talked about that, but you've got Florida, Florida State, Texas is potentially with Sark, LSU with Brian. You know what I'm saying? You've got a lot of major programs right now that are listing, and you've got Ryan Day at Ohio State, and you said in the most secure of the secure spots, you've got Ohio State at number one, the defending national champion, and just cruising along. So Ohio State really likes their position right now. They like where they're sitting. They've been trying to keep their powder dry on NIL so that they could make some big offers here at the end of the recruiting cycle. And between a hot brand, a stable coaching situation, and NIL money and resources, look, they're in a good position to make some moves. And I think for Ohio State, their formula's been great. They're staying away from the kids that are just about the bag. And you're starting to see more and more kids. Look, when the money becomes kind of the same, it becomes about other things. And that's where I think Ohio State's at right now. And like a player like Keon Spell, he's talking about, I mean, he just roasted Penn State, talking about how he was going to decommit anyway because he doesn't want to lose. They lose all the big games, he doesn't want to lose. And so it's like, you know, if you're tired of losing or you don't want to lose or whatever it is, come to Ohio State. You're not going to lose often. Now, it's not like we don't win them all, but we win a lot of them. And so, yeah, no, I really like how Ohio State's knows their position in the college football world. We are clearly the alpha dog in the college football world right now, and we're acting like it. We're acting like Saban used to do at Alabama, how he used to come in at the end and the swoop boy kids. That's what we're doing right now, and I love it. I'm really excited about it, and I love Ohio State's position in it.
Yeah, I mean, this program, we've said it 100 times in every aspect, academically, the culture, the development, the winning on the field. As long as that money gets somewhat close to what these other teams are, the Ohio State name and the development and the culture and the academics and the faith that you get there, the examples that these other players are leading with, that comes into play. And I love these coaches taking the swing, man. I love it. They seem very confident with some of these recruits when they walk into a room, and they should, because we've seen college football today. Nevada, you kind of brought it up. Billy Napier, gone. James Franklin, gone. Sam Pittman, gone. Mike Gundy, Deshaun Foster, Brent Pry, Trent Diffler, Trent Bray, Jay Norvell for Colorado State. A lot of firings. And the next one on the list, there's a couple more to pay attention to here. LSU, Brian Kelly, man, I mean, from what I've read and from what I've heard, they're really discussing that game yesterday against Texas A&M. I saw the final score of that, and it was actually uglier than the final score led on to be. Then you got South Carolina with Shane Beamer. I mean, dude, they had Alabama. It was Alabama, right? Dead to rights. Mississippi State. who they had Texas dead to rights. Steve Sarkisian as well. So you're bringing this up, and the more I watch every team play and every coach, the more I think back of some times I've talked about these Buckeyes this year and what they can do better. And it makes me think, man, we are blessed to be Buckeyes. We really, really are. Because, man, on the field, off the field, these Buckeyes just look differently. Ryan Day coaches differently, turned over 2 coordinators, doing what he's doing. And you got coaches like Brian Kelly that have been there forever. And look at their recruiting over there. I mean, they pay for recruits. He gets everything he wants over there. Ohio State has lost some recruits to them because they come in with the bag and just straight buy people, and they're still not able to put it on the field, you know? So it just goes to show you how grateful we should be as Buckeye fans towards Ryan Day, Mick Marotti, and these coaches and what they're doing because, man, there are some high expectations in college football, and that's new to some of these programs, Nevada. You know, it's not new to Ohio State. Can you remember a time when the expectation wasn't win a national title? Well, now when you dump all this money into your program, these donors at LSU, at Florida, man, that's their expectation. And I'm not sure those programs can say they've had the expectation of natty or bust as long as the Buckeyes have. Maybe I'm wrong about that. What's your thoughts on that?
No, it's definitely a thing. It's a new element right now. When teams are paying for a player, when booster influences or other people are coming in paying for a player, they want to see him on the field and they want to see him excel. And if he's not doing those things, they want to understand why. And you end up with situations like Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers thing, where they couldn't wait to get rid of Quinn Ewers for Arch Manning, and then Arch Manning's trash. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny watching Texas A&M with all their, because they obviously had that incredible recruiting class that one year where they threw the bag. Well, all those guys are gone, and it's now the latest round where they were a little bit more moderated in terms of what they did. These are the guys that are kind of leading them on the field right now. So for Ohio State, it's just it's always finding that balance. It's finding that balance where you can kind of you put your best foot forward, and as you said, make the money not matter by at least being in the ballpark. And I just think it's such a clever strategy to stay away from the kids that are trying to get the last dollar, because that just, I think those kids always bring problems with them, and whether it be a mom influence or a mentor influence or an overly aggressive dad or agent or whatever it might be. But I just think those kids are going after it for the wrong reason, and I think it unintentionally helps Ohio State self-select these kids, and they get the right type of kids. And I love it. I'm excited about it. And for Brian, when people have been worried about Blaine Bradford down there in Louisiana, but obviously with the instability at the coaching situation and Brian Kelly seemingly on the verge of being fired at any moment, it doesn't really lend itself to that making a move. So I like our position on that particular recruit, but I like where we're sitting in the entire landscape even better.
Yeah, it just, it can be aggravating sometimes as a fan to watch the Buckeyes and how they operate their recruiting. But honestly, man, I've said this for a minute now since I've been a little bit more involved in recruiting is, man, I can't hate on their strategy. I can't hate when they back off of some of these guys that they just want the biggest bag. The biggest example, Nevada, that I can give to you, because it's probably affected Ohio State more than any other team, is Oregon. Oregon has came in with the biggest bag several times and taken recruits away from Ohio State. And Ohio State has not, re-upped their offer to try to get that kid back. They've let it play out. And we saw what happened on the field the first game last year. Got us by a point, but ultimately we saw who the better team was in the Rose Bowl. And then this year you watch Oregon lose to Indiana, really hypes Indiana up, and then you watch them go into the Wisconsin game. Now, granted, lost their starting quarterback, but it's Wisconsin. Okay. The score was 7-0 at halftime. Okay. Backup quarterback or not, if Ohio State would have played Lincoln Keenholz the entire time for the Wisconsin game, do you think the score would have been 7-21? No, they still wouldn't have scored. And I have faith that we probably would have scored more than 20 points. But either way, not just that game in general, you see that strategy. Oregon is a perfect example of that strategy of, hey, money, flash, fame, come here, I got you, I'll give you shoes, I'll give you money, I'll give you an apartment, I'll give you the car, I give you what you want, come here. You look at what they're putting on the field, a pretty good football team, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, when it matters in the playoffs and people are a little injured and maybe some arguments among players and playing time, how do they all come together during a team, during a game when that happens? And when your number one reason to come from a school is money, and you're in the playoffs and you come against those, you're getting paid no matter what. So what's going to drive you to take that next step? And listen, I'm not bashing on all these kids that pick the money. I don't know their situation. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I don't know. Okay. But still, what I am showing is how Ohio State's recruiting strategy is a lot different. Not just their recruiting strategy, how they run their teams a lot different than a lot of teams around the nation that get all this buzz about number one preseason and all this. And the Buckeyes still come out every day, every game so far this year, and just look classy. They look, disciplined, coached well, and dominating on the field. And they're not going out and having to pay $1 million to getting running back, even though we wish they would have maybe right now, but I think we're good. I think we're set good. And I think the future of this program looks very, very bright, even with us not having to go out and take chances on high school players, paying them over $1 million.
Well, yeah, and I think for Ohio State, look, having been around team sports my entire life and in professional life, I'm telling you, when things are going good, you don't have problems. It's when things go bad is when you have problems, and that's when you find out what your culture. You don't find out about your culture when things are going good. You find out about your culture when things are going bad. And that's why these programs like Oregon, if they face any adversity at all, they just tend to fray apart. And Michigan is absolutely a kindling box, just ready to go up in flames. Because that's why they play really well at home and they play really bad on the road. They're just the classic bullies. And I think for Ohio State was able to tap into that culture last year when everything was at its worst, when the fan base had, for a large part, had turned its back on the team, on Ryan Day, stopped believing, everything like that. They brought it inside and they believed in themselves and they went on a historic tear and convinced, resoundingly won a national championship. So I just think that for Ohio State, I think the culture is what matters. The culture is what makes a difference, and we want those kids that want to be a part of. We want to that want to be a part of that because that's for the bad times. And for Ohio State, we hope that we don't have bad times, but inevitably in college football, man, you lay an egg, you have a bad game, you catch some bad breaks, you get bad. And it happens. It's happened to just about every team. In my memory that I can think of with Ohio State, very few Ohio State teams have ever gone undefeated. In this new playoff scenario, I don't think any team will ever go undefeated again. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really, really hard. But for Ohio State, I just know that if something does happen, I'm not worried about them completely falling apart at the seams. I'm not worried about that being the undoing of the staff or the team's going to quit because I know those guys are there for the right reason. They believe in what they're doing and they'll get it figured it out. And then that gives me a lot of comfort.
Yeah, and what Ryan Day learned last year from winning that national title, going through what he went through with the offense, having Chip Kelly there and Jim Knowles in the defense after the Oregon game and managing to correct that ship. Like, I feel like Ryan Day has learned so much and made changes. And you see in the offseason his coaching hirings as well, goes in and snipes two legit like head offensive line coaches to come and be assistants in his program. When you see head coaches being able to take position coaches and make them assistants on their teams, you know that it's a pretty good program because coaches just don't do that. So you see all these coaching changes now going on in college football. I'm wondering if Ryan Day has got any phone calls out to a couple of these assistants from Florida and these other programs out there. They're losing their head coach. Programs falling apart. So what Ryan Day is doing, changing with the times. What Ohio State is doing. Mark Pantoni came on a radio interview the other day and says, "Yeah, Neil, the way college football has completely changed my job. Right, I have to do so many different things. But Ohio State." has been able to stay at the forefront of that by not really, they've had to make some changes, but they've kept their base the base. And the first thing, and that's the culture. That's these kids. That's raising these kids to be good men. It all starts there. And Ryan Day loves these players just like the rest of these coaches do. Matty P coming in, you hear about the relationships he has with some of these players. Some people compare that to the relationship our defensive coordinator had last year. Coach Locke coming in, the relationships he's built with some of these players. It's such a tight knit group. And the base of that is the culture, right? A lot of the teammates, they share a similar faith that's very strong in this Buckeye culture as well. So a lot of good things going on for the Buckeyes, especially you take a step back and you look at what's going on around the country, Nevada, and all these coaches being fired. And there's going to be more fired, right? Mike Norvell, Florida State. I think they're making the right decision on keeping him for the year. But once this year is done, I think he's gone too. So it's just a great time to be a Buckeye and a great time to see a team go out and play the way we're playing, knowing that there's so much more in the tank. I cannot wait to watch this Penn State game after a bye week. All this work the coaches have put in, gave the players some time off, yet stayed in the film room, going to try out some new things, the self-scouting. I am excited to see this Penn State game and see what the coaches come up with.
Yeah, and look, I mean that Penn State game. You look at the schedule. Preseason that was supposed to be a 1 versus 2 type of matchup, and I mean, and we weren't sure who the one was. A lot of people are thinking Penn State was picked to win the Big Ten and be the national champion and things like that. And obviously things have changed with Aller being out and stuff. But this is going to be it's going to be a great matchup. I think to me this is the opening act of the second season. I feel like the season's been kind of two parts. You had the first half of the season. Now this is the second half. Let's see what they roll out. Let's see, what they do. I think we're going to get a really good idea about Ohio State coming off this bye week, about what they're trying to build towards, with the offense, with what they're trying to build into the Big Ten championship game and into the playoffs, what they're going to try to be looking like. Because I think the biggest changes are going to come right now. They're not going to come at any other point in the season, bit more so than right now, because you've got the first half of the season in the book. You've got 2 weeks to prepare. I think the offense that comes out against Penn State is going to be directionally what they're trying to move towards, and that's another reason why I'm excited to watch that game.
Yeah, well, I mean, it lines up with last year. I would say in Nevada, let me know if you agree with this. The biggest change was made after the Oregon game to the defensive side of the ball. But that's because that's where most of the struggles were occurring. We don't have a lot of struggles on the defensive side of the ball, yet there's a glaring thing that needs to get better on the offensive side of the ball. And if we're following a pattern, if we're going off the past, Ryan Day made that change last year. I remember reading the Scoop Report, listening to the shows, talking about it as well, all the intel coming out about the changes they were making with turning some of these defensive ends loose, blitzing more, turning up the blitzing percentage. So I expect that. That's what good college football coaches do. They don't get stubborn. Ryan Day has that in him, but I just think he's gained so much experience, and he saw what happened in the playoffs when he just turned it loose, right? Unstoppable. This team's the same way. We're unstoppable. We have just as good, if not better receivers in some way. Carnell Tate is definitely a better version of himself. It sucks losing to Mekabuka. Still got Jeremiah Smith. But Julian Sayin, as far as passing goes, is an upgrade over Will Howard. And I loved Will Howard, won us a national title. I always thought he was a way better passer than people gave him, credit for. But still, Julian Sayin's just different. And this team
What,
is so
what,
young too, Nevada. It's wild, bro. It's
well,
wild.
it's funny. There was excerpts that came out of that book, that Buckeye Brotherhood book that came out, and they talked about the Rose Bowl last year, and they were talking to the defensive players and how the defensive players came into the locker room during the Rose Bowl and were feeling pretty good about themselves, big halftime lead, and they said that Knowles came down there and was just furious and was just like, we're not going to rest on there. We're gonna get in there. He's like, what are you guys gonna do? And there's like, just let us get after him, coach. He's like, just put him on the ground, put him on the ground the whole time. Then they proceeded to sack him like 7 times or whatever it was. But I mean, for all the crap that Knowles gets, I mean, Knowles knew what to do. He knew when to push the guys. He knew what to do. And that Rose Bowl, might have been one of his finest hours there in terms of the number of time after what had happened the first time around against Oregon, not being able to stop them, and then just completely confounding Dylan Gabriel, sacking him, I don't know, 7 times or whatever it was, and winning that game, kind of going away from the number one team in the country. That was great. But yeah, no, it's a super young team. People don't talk about how young this team is, and we've talked about on the show. I mean, for 2026, just on the offensive side, you return the entire offensive line, your tight ends, your running backs, uh, you you have 3 or 4 of your top 5 wide receivers and your quarterback. That's what returns in 2026. So yeah, lots to be excited about. We're gonna be down a few pints on the defense, not only with upperclassmen, but with underclassmen going early to the NFL draft. But I have faith in Matty Patricia to be able to turn that thing around. I think he can do it. He can get it done, and he will get it done. And he did it this year, losing 8 starters. I think he can do it again in 2026.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody in the chat put a team meeting has been called by LSU at 8 p.m. tonight. We know Texas did that one time this year, and I know this isn't new to college football. Have a players only meeting with the coach, right? But I'm not sure about the details of some of the stuff that was said to Coach Day. If that's a normal thing that happens, can you imagine somebody yelling that at Nick Saban in there, like, "Hey man, like you screwed up, you did this," or Brian Kelly yelling at him, telling him what he did wrong? Do you
No,
think
it's
that
not Urban
happens with
Meyer.
that on other
That
teams?
that he was a liar, that he's lying. Yeah, I think I think they were very fortunate that and it was interesting. It was like Mitchell Melton and a lot of guys, and again, we had this at the time. We'd said, who are the leaders, and we're like Mitchell Melton, and people are like, Mitchell Melton was leading. He didn't even play. It's like, no, he was one of the guys that really stood up and talked about it. But yeah, um that was, I think that clearly was a turning point, but that was unlike any meeting that I've ever heard of or been a part of in my life, and certainly I think it took that level of pointed discussion to kind of turn that team around and get them in the right direction. And I'm not sure if we'll ever see anything quite like that again in our lives, because that was truly special.
Yeah, it was. I got that book ordered, waiting on it to come in. I'm excited to read it, man. Jeffrey, any changes coming after the bye week? Do we anticipate? Jeffrey, I tell you what, we're definitely going to have a show on that this upcoming week. We're going to wait for the Buckeyes to get back in, practice a little more, right? That way we can gain a little bit more information, because right now, just talking, self scouting, stuff like that. So this upcoming week, there'll definitely be some nuggets coming out on the Scoop message board and on the show as well. So we'll have some more ideas as to what schematically is being changed up, any changes to the lineup, Tegra Shabola at right guard, the running back lineup. We'll have some more information on that and definitely let you guys know what that is. Nevada, I hope this book has a little bit of information about Jim Knowles, because, I don't want to turn this into a 20-minute conversation, but this is the last thing is I ask myself because there's a part of me that has a little bit of dislike for Jim Knowles, but I can't really pinpoint. I think it's just because he left. It's like, hey, dude, you won a national title, you had the number one defense, and you just left these dudes, right? But money's money. But I think there's so many like false details, lies people are putting out about how this all went down. And I think even whether you believe him or not, that's where a lot of this like hate for Jim Knowles is coming from. Then you have a sister on X who goes back and forth with people all day long, especially during that time. But you brought it up, Heather. You corrected me the other day, right? You have other people putting on Twitter and other shows and stuff that he asked for a raise before the national title game. That makes people furious, but that's not true. It didn't happen. So it'd be interesting to know, right? The actual facts and truth about how it all worked out. See how old Jimmy handled the situation. But either way, we got Matt Patricia. So quite honestly, I don't really care too much anymore.
Yeah, no, like I'm in that same spot where I'm just like, I don't really care. It doesn't really
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. It's trivia at this point. But for Ohio State, it all worked out. I mean, it worked out the way that they wanted to go. This is the outcome that he wanted. I think Ryan Day kind of figured it was time that they wanted a different voice going on, and they wanted, that sometimes you just need a different voice in the room, and that's what they're looking for. And he got it with Matt Patricia, and it's worked out spectacularly. And I think it worked out for all parties involved.
Yeah, no doubt. Buckeyes coming off this bye week, getting ready for Penn State, make some changes. Like I said, we'll keep you guys up to date on that. Really turning up the heat on some of these 2026 recruits to finish this class out strong. Stay tuned next week, man. Got a loaded roster of shows. Daniel Sanchez Wednesday, Sports Talk with Jay on Tuesday. Brady Edmonds on Thursday. Jay Timmons, after his visit over the weekend, will be joining us as well. A couple other defensive linemen. Let me drop this nugget for you as well. I would keep an eye on some USC defensive linemen. Maybe some surprising names popping up for the Penn State game, possibly another game as well. So keep an eye on there. Remember where you heard it first. Nevada, any closing thoughts on these
R-
Buckeyes or anything
r-
else?
Relatives of Epi? Isn't everybody a relative of Epi?
Essentially, bro. Essentially.
Essentially.
I talk to his dad all the time. You know, this defensive lineman out of Texas. He's 2026 defensive lineman. He's going to be coming up for the Penn State game, relative of Epi. So, and it's like legit. That's his blood relative. It's not like so
No,
big
but
old
I got to tell you,
family.
I told you a funny story. I put it on the board. It's like a good friend of mine's Ed Tiamu was a star at Utah, got drafted by the Vikings in third round, and he lives down in San Diego. And he's like, "Oh man, brother, my relatives are wearing me out. Like they all come to visit. They all want to stay at my house." I'm like, "How many relatives do you have, Ed?" He goes, "The entire island." It's like it's so funny. It's just like they're all cousins and brothers and second cousins, stuff like that. So it's every one of those Polynesians is a cousin of Epi, and we want them all at Ohio State. That's for sure.
Oh, I'm telling you, you want to talk about an an upper class of a human being. His dad, Epi himself, putting out devotionals, just the way he carries himself. You guys saw the interviews, so yes, very close family as well. So anybody, right, that's a relative to him. The Buckeyes have opened it up, man. You'll see this 27 class. I think the Buckeyes are like in the lead for three of Epi's cousins, but there will be a show where I have Epi or his dad on, and we'll go down the list for you with him on here, so you guys can see how big his family truly is. But hey, appreciate you guys for watching. Ryan Day not on the hot seat, right? Like most of the nation's coaches is. Buckeyes in a great spot. Penn State coming up. Undefeated regular season. We're going to run the table here. Nevada says next to impossible doing these 12-team playoffs. I think the Buckeyes got a pretty good shot this year, but going to turn it up. Going to have to turn it up during the playoffs. But on that note, guys, we appreciate the heck out of you. Okay, just make sure I didn't miss any super chats. Good to go. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe button as well. Love you guys. Go Buckeyes. OH.
IO.